Sri Gurumurthy to please come to the line. Give a round of applause. We'll start the function with the welcome address by Mr. Vijay Senan, State Secretary AIBOC and Senior Vice President of IOB Officers Federation. Comrades, with the changing situation, the threat for public sector undertakings and challenges before the public sector undertakings are increasing. Hence, our apex body has decided to revisit the Joint Forum for Officers Organization in public sector undertakings and directed us to hold seminars across the country. We are the first state unit to hold the same seminar for 2 days, today at this venue. We have with us Comrade Sundararajan from BSNL, Comrade Jody Mohan from NLC, and our leaders, Senior Vice President Comrade Anand Kumar and Comrade Manimaran, and the Secretary General of All India Indian Bank Officer Association, and our ever active President Comrade Franco with us. And when we requested Comrade Gurumurthy ji, who is the chartered accountant and columnist having a different view on every subject. Even if it is in our mind, it may not strike us that this is the idea. He is with us to deliver his thoughts on the present situation in public sector undertakings. What is the role of public sector undertakings? I welcome Comrade Gurumurthy, and I thank him for agreeing to address us. Friends, I also welcome other leaders and also retired leaders and members and our own members who have come. I hope more members will come. Hence, my small request is those who are this side may kindly go this side so that those who are coming, when Comrade Gurumurthy addresses, they don't disturb the audience more. So I kindly request you to go this side. This will help us that those who are entering, they disturb only a small portion, they don't attract the speaker's mind. At least few of them, not all of them. With this welcome address, I am thankful for the guidance given by given by our All India leaders, Mr. Anand Kumar, Manimaran, Rajendran, and others in this matter, and I welcome them also. And I leave the mic to Comrade Franco. One request I would like to make is, one suggestion I would like to make is, if possible, any public sector undertaking, the important policy making body is board. The board appointments, for every appointment, the applications are called, skills of the people are tested in a systematic manner, and then they are selected. But for board appointments, board staff appointment, CMDs and EDs, there is a system that is also being revamped, but there is no transparent system or skill verification system for appointment of other board of directors, which almost goes by political thinking. And those board of directors that participate in the board also is very mute. They become mute spectator in the board. So before a board appointment is made, at least there should be group discussion, because in the group board they should be able to discuss. We have various experience in which most of the board members do not discuss anything, and they almost say that what chairman has said, okay. I request that if possible, this issue of purposeful board appointment of other directors should may kindly be taken up with the government. With this, I request Comrade President to continue. I request Comrade J.D. Sharma to welcome our chief guest, Comrade Gurumurthy. Comrade J.D. Sharma is President of Indian Reserve Bank Officers Association and he is Joint General Secretary in IBO. I request Comrade Bhavani Shankar to present a small memento to our chief guest.
Presidential address now. First of all, I thank and congratulate the members in spite of having continuous holidays and Saturday being more than an off day for us bankers. You have made it possible to make this seminar a grand success with your attendance. And I am very happy that we could get Mr. Gurumurthy. Sir, we call ourselves comrades not because of any ideology. Because of the trade union movement, we have the habit of calling ourselves as comrades. And within the trade union movement, we have a lot of respect for you. Shri Gurumurthy had addressed us in another AIBOC meeting sometimes back, in which he was talking about the economy of this country, which is dominated by the bank-oriented development. I continuously keep reading his columns where he gives very differing points with a lot of research and analysis. Recently he had organized in Chennai a massive programs for the children to inculcate in them the values of the traditions and culture of this country, showing them the traditional village games, traditional medicines, traditional worship patterns, which was witnessed by thousands and thousands of children. He had been also the convener of the Swadeshi Jagran March, and he had been supporting the public sector. So we thought it right that he should share his concerns, share his ideas with us. Today we are in a changing scenario. The country is undergoing a great change. We are part of the change. We have brought a political change, and this political change we hope that will bring lot of changes for the entire country, for the entire population of this country. Comrades, when we look at the history of this country, 200 years back, we were better off than other countries. In the year 1700, 25% of the wealth of the whole world was with India. We had so much. We knew about metallurgy and we constructed the giant pillar in Delhi, which has not rusted even today. So those days itself our people knew how to separate sulfur from iron. And 2500 years back we had surgeons in the name of Sushruta, Charuha, who had conducted surgeries. They were plastic surgeons. And we had a great knowledge of agriculture. 9,000 years ago, agriculture was there in this country. And we had recorded history says we had 36,000 varieties of paddy. And in astronomy again, we were a pioneer. And today also we can be proud that the Mangalyaan, which our Prime Minister proudly says that we could go to Mars at the cost of rupees 7 per kilometer, whereas for an auto in Ahmedabad per kilometer you have to pay 10 rupees. So we have these great traditions, great knowledge, but after the British came, things changed, and today where are we? We are pioneers in many fields. Yes, in the space technology, in the information sector, we have doctors from the country working all over the world. We have excelled in many fields, but in spite of that, we have poverty in this country. We have inequality in this country. And when we look back at the history, when this country was about to get independence. In the year 1944, a plan called Bombay Plan was made. Bombay Plan was the norms which laid down the way for public sector as per many writings. And this Bombay Plan was not prepared by the politicians. It was prepared by the industrialists, which consisted of Mr. D.R.D. Tata, G.D. Birla, Lal Sri Ram, Purushottam Das Thakur, and few others. And that Bombay Plan envisaged that for the development of this country after independence, we require public sector, we require the government to intervene, the power sector, the coal sector, the banking sector has to be supported by the government. That is how we had public sector playing the commanding heights of this economy. It approached United States and some other countries for starting steel industry here. So one question was asked, it seems, what are you going to do with steel? Are you going to eat it? We will supply you steel. You continue with your agriculture. But later on, we started the steel industries. We started through the public sector. So many industries because of which we could bring in a change in the industrial growth. And when we come to the banking sector, before 1969, you all know what was the situation. The banking sector was in the hands of the private sector. Commonwealth could not enter into the bank's premises. Bank branches did not reach the interiors of the country. I am glad that today our Prime Minister acknowledged in US, saying that the bankers I have made them to go to the interior villages where only postmen were going. Comrades, it is only after the 1969 nationalization, after the lead bank scheme was introduced, every block headquarter in the country was supposed to have a bank branch, and we started opening branches. And I am glad to share with you that I have worked in a branch in Nagaland. Crores accounts have to be opened. Is it going to be opened by HDFC Bank? Is it going to be opened by the ICICI Bank? Is it going to be opened by Axis Bank? It is only public sector banks which are opening those accounts. So if this country has to develop, we have a vision in the trade union movement. We have a vision for the banking sector. We have a vision for the public sector. We have a vision for this country as a whole. This seminar has been arranged to broaden our vision, to know from the experts what more can be done so that we can really transform this economy, transform the banking sector, transform the public sector and transform the country as a whole so that we can fulfill the dream of Gandhiji. Gandhiji's dream was to see that there is no tears in anybody's eyes. If that has to be possible, we have to work together, and we will work hard together as public sector undertakings. As trade unions in the public sector, we have come together. And here I would like to also state that in spite of being the pioneers who have been working in the villages and in the areas, our salary today is one of the comparatively, if we see, it is one of the lowest. People who have joined the different sector, I can narrate my own experience. A classmate of mine who joined the school as a postgraduate teacher, he is getting a better salary than me. Same seniority. A person who joined as a college professor, he is getting almost 3 times the salary of me as a bank officer. And today, people in the banking sector have been asked to work 6 days a week. We have been demanding that there has to be 5-day week. The entire world is working for 5 days. The foreign exchange system works only for 5 days. But only in this country. Even now the private sector, the IT sector works for 5 days. And some of the ministers who are sitting here, they asked us a question. In the private sector, when we work for after 5 o'clock, we used to be at least paid some overtime. If we had to go on a Saturday, we used to be paid double their salary. But in the banking sector, we are not giving anything extra. So we have been demanding this per day week. Tomorrow, Comrade Anand Kumar will be sharing with you the stages of the wage negotiation and our demand for a decent salary and a 5-day week will be achieved through these joint movements, and we will work hard for the betterment of this country, for the betterment of the trade union movement, and we assure Sri Guru Murthy that we will learn the lessons from what he is going to talk, and we also appeal to him that he should also use his contacts with the government to see that we get a better salary and a 5-day week. Thank you, Ananda. Now I request the Guru Murthy to address. Sir, this speech is also being webcast, so thousands of our officers will be also watching all over the country. Your speech will be seen by them in the webcast. Thank you.
Thomas Franco, the chair state president of this organization, who may have much more to say and maybe more eloquently, but because you have all invited me to talk, he has to cut short his speech. And Mr. Vijay Senan, secretary, Anand Kumar, senior vice president, Manimaran, Rajendra, Swami, Jyoti Mohammed, and Mr. Sundarajan Abdi, and dear brothers and sisters. You know, I was introduced as someone who has contacts in the government. But I have nothing to do with any government. In fact, I have never taken up any position in any government. And it is not that positions are not there. But I do believe if you have to talk the truth, if you have to make your mind clear to the people in the system or outside the system, you have to keep away from the system, because system needs people, sentinels outside. There have been such people in this country over a period of time. Their number has reduced very vastly. Particularly after liberalization and globalization, in which I don't have great differences, but the manner in which it has been executed, on that I have very great differences. Since that time, the wholesale defection of people to only pursuing money has reduced the acceptability of all, whether in politics or in administration or in public life or even in religious and spiritual people. So if we have to talk about where as a nation we will stand, and we do, and where we have to be, we have to have a global view as to where the world stands. In fact, it has always been my appeal to the bankers to study the concept of money. The concept of money as it has changed and got corrupted in the last 40 years, and more particularly in the last 20 years, and even more particularly in the last 5 years. Unless you come to understand that the idea of money has lost all its meaning which was attributed to it in economics. Today, the money that is being generated and circulated in the world has nothing to do with economics. In the last 5 years, America has printed $3 trillion without any backing of economic performance. European Union has printed $1 trillion, $1.2 trillion. Japan has printed over $800 billion and it is printing at the rate of $40 billion every month. And this is called economics. Why a very conservative economy, a very conservative financial system like Japan has to do the very thing that America is doing. Otherwise, Japan's economic system will be under tremendous stress. No economic theory has explained this new phenomenon. Unless we understand the new and emerging phenomenon in which where we stand, we will not be able to define the concept of money, which is very central to banking. In fact, Mr. Raghuram Rajan has been trying to talk about it, not that he has an answer. At least he is trying to say the way the Western economies, Western central bankers are expanding the money supply, this is leading to another crisis. At least he is able to say to that extent. But they have no alternative. All that I am going to say is that you are creating money which has no asset backing. Because without creating that money, your economy cannot be sustained. So this crisis is not economic crisis, it is economics in crisis. This is the most important point which is being missed in the debate, particularly in India, because we think that whatever is coming from outside is money. It is not money. It is just a piece of paper which will not be able to give the return which you are expecting, but it will be taking the return which they are expecting. This is the most important aspect on which we need to have some study, some understanding, some debate, some seminar, so that at some level we understand what is money. And I will explain it in the course of my speech as to what I mean. Unless we get down to specifics, we will not be able to understand the enormity of the crisis the Western world is facing. Our crisis is nothing as compared to that. There are broadly three kinds of economies. One, government driven or budget driven. Second is bank driven. Third is market driven, financial market driven. In fact, financial market has integrated everything outside Asia, but in Asia, financial market is still different from banks. Banks are associated, linked to financial market, but they are not integrated into financial market, they function independently. And that is one of the reasons why Asia, India, China, Japan, Korea, Taiwan may be saved. So the government-driven economies are basically socialist economies, in which the banking system is also part of the government financing model. That system has almost been given up in the world. Because the government cannot be strengthening the society, it is the society which has to strengthen the government. All talk that society can be re-engineered ideologically as failed. The difference between the free market capitalism and socialism was free market capitalism theorized that people could be into pure economic beings through the market, about which I will explain to you. You will be shocked to know how this happened and how it is continuing to happen and how the threat of it is there for India today. That is re-engineering the people's life, their lifestyle, their habits, their tastes, their morals through market. Socialism felt you could re-engineer through the state. That idea has failed. Now we have this free market idea at work, about which I will tell you. But in between the two is the bank-driven model. One is the government-driven, budget-driven model. The other is the market-driven, equity market-driven, financial market-driven model. In between is the bank-driven model. The 2008 crisis has shown that the financial market-driven model has only engineered the crisis. It has no method of crisis aversion or crisis prevention, and it is having the potential to generate the crisis again and again of a magnitude far more bigger than the previous crisis. Every subsequent crisis is, in terms of quantity and quality, more unmanageable than the previous crisis. It is only efficient bank-managed models like Germany, Japan and India, which have the potentiality to avert crisis. This fundamental message has been delivered by the 2008 crisis, but it has not been absorbed fully in our discourse, in our debate, in our consciousness, either in the banking system or in the policy making forum or in the media, generally in the public discourse. That is because we have a foreign dependent mindset and our theories are drawn, our idioms are drawn, our examples are drawn from the Western model. I am nothing against the West. It is good for them, let them keep it. If it is not good for them, they will rework it. But it is not good for us is very clear. That's what I am going to tell you. Actually, many people thought that free market capitalism and socialism are two opposite thoughts. They are not. Both of them view human being as only an economic being. The only point of difference was whether the resources should be under the control of the government or it should be under the control of the market. Otherwise, on the totality of how human beings should be, there was absolutely no difference. I am going to refer to a document of the United Nations. In 1951, they advised the underdeveloped nations how they can progress. It was a document which was based on the Western view of life, whether socialist or capitalist. There was no difference. And they were agreed on how human beings should be re-engineered. This is United Nations Department of Social and Economic Affairs. Measures for the economic development of underdeveloped countries. They are telling all the underdeveloped countries, you have to make policies like this so that your country can develop, your people can develop. There is a sense in which rapid economic progress is impossible without painful adjustments. Ancient philosophies have to be scrapped. Old social institutions have to disintegrate. You know, you should have nothing to do with your past. You have to destroy the past. You have to disconnect yourself from the past. Your culture, your tradition, your way of life, your morals, everything has to change. You know what is the theoretical basis for this? This is called anthropological modernity of the West. Economists do not know about it. Sociologists will know. Anthropologists will know. You prepare the society for development by automizing the families. They said family is an important instrument. This was in 1970s. Today the family has disintegrated and it is virtually over in most of Europe. And in America, 41% of the babies born in America are born for unwed mothers. And half of them are born for teenagers, school-going children. The number is 49% in England. In England in 2015, more than half of the babies will be born for unwed mothers. 55% of the first marriages end in divorce. 67% of the second marriages end in divorce. If somebody had a tenacity to marry, 73% of the third marriages end in divorce. This did not happen accidentally. This happened by design. This happened by the design of multinational companies. You know, in America in 1950, in every household there were 3.5 people. Today it is 2.5. In 60 years, the average number of persons living in a household has come down by 1. You know what it meant in economic terms? They needed 40 million houses more. That added to GDP $12 trillion. That added so many television, so many washing machines, so many cars. You see, none of the advertisements of the FMCG goods or consumer durables, you will find in a family more than husband and wife and children. There is no question of father, there is no question of grandfather. So you settle in people's mind, a family means husband and wife and child. But today even that has been lost. 51% of the American families are headed by the father or the mother, but not the father and the mother together. Because there was no father at all, or there was a divorce. This has produced an economic model, this has produced economic prosperity. In European Union, they judged how the reduction of per family population from 3 to 1.8, from 3.5 to 2.8. It has resulted in huge explosion in consumer goods and FMCG product sales. This has resulted in an economic model which has produced an economic theory. It said there is no need for savings. 80% of the American savings was family savings in 1960. By 2006 third quarter, the family savings was minus 20%. The families were borrowing and living. You know why? Because there is no parent to take care of the elders, to take care of unemployed people, to take care of informed people, to take care of all these responsibilities have been passed on to the government. Families were nationalized. Government was privatized. With the result, what in economics all of us have read? The propensity to save, your responsibility to parents, to children, near and dear. This is what constitutes the propensity to save. And that is lost. The government takes care of everybody. In fact, Alan Greenspan wrote a book in May 2007. The crisis was coming in 2008. He was called the god of money. Because he produced money out of nothing. That is why he was called god of money. He said, you know which countries save? Only those countries where people feel insecure. Their government is not taking care of them. They don't take care of their retirement, they don't take care of their illness, they don't take care of their unemployment. And they are so worried and they feel so insecure, they are saving. But see our country. We have kept the people free of insecurity by social security scheme. And our people need not save at all. Not only they need not save, we have a financial system. We have a credit card system where people can borrow money and spend, expecting future income. Over and above current income. They are so confident people. So buying power theory was replaced by consumer confidence theory. Buying power is you have money on hand and then you go to shop. Now you don't have money on hand. Now you have the confidence that you will earn money and begin spending. So the entire economic theory shifted from consumer purchasing power to consumer confidence. This entire change took place in the last 30-35 years. Have you ever heard of this being debated in India? In your economic schools? By your column writers? By your leaders who talk about economics? Did the result made the present value of the future social security obligations of taking care of elders, informed people, unemployed people, unhealthy people. The present value of the future social security payments is $104 trillion. Whereas America's GDP today is $16 trillion. This is a dynamite under America. It can blow up that country. And this was not unexpected. Milton Friedman and other economists assembled in 1980 in an exclusive discussion. They all came out with where we are heading. Don't do it. You cannot take over family responsibilities and make the family functionless. This will destroy the family. Because no system can exist without a purpose. The family's purpose is to take care of people. If you take over that responsibility, the families will go. You cannot create families by law or economics. The families exist and therefore economics exist. If you dismember the family, if you deconstruct the family, it will not, please don't do it. The Bureau of Economic Research in America came up with a huge publication. The US economy in transition, that was thrown into the dustbin. Today, you are having an economic system unsupported by the society. 51% of the American families are dependent on the government in one way or the other. They have produced a state-dependent population. This is the biggest problem of American economy. And they are not producing savings. Last year, America borrowed $3.5 trillion from outside America. Asia saves 75% of world savings. America borrows 78% of world savings. If Asia does not exist, America will not be able to borrow. How many of you will know that India has lent over $200 billion to America? You know what? The foreign exchange reserve you have, which is about $320 billion. 66% of it is invested in American government securities, American public sector undertakings. This is money lent by India to America at 1.5-2% interest. This is how America has co-opted the world economy into American economy. The total foreign exchange reserves of about $13 trillion held by all the countries of the world. 66% is in dollar terms. That is almost $9 trillion and more dollars are invested in America by other countries. One of the countries which is the biggest victim of this is China. China has foreign exchange surplus of $3.5 trillion, out of which they have invested almost $2.5 trillion in America. If anything happens to America, China will commit sati along with America. 70-80% insulated from the world economy. If we had integrated our financial system into the world economy, like what Mr. P. Chidambaram proposed in 1996-97, of making capital account convertibility, the Indian financial system would have collapsed. It is only because we have created a wall of non-convertibility of the rupee, your financial system is safe. Look at what happened to Korea in 1997. Korean economy was a booming economy, very strong, very powerful, export-oriented, production-oriented economy. It's not a small, soft economy. It was a hard economy, like Germany's, like Japan's. Their banks borrowed money from abroad because the banks were allowed to borrow without limit. And money was available abroad at a very low rate. So they began borrowing money, funding the real estate, long-term infrastructure projects. But when the money was borrowed up by the foreign investors, they didn't have the money to pay because it was all locked up in long-term projects, in hard assets which cannot be realized. And because of that, there was asset inflation. Asset inflation produces artificial sense of prosperity. Because of that, Korea was caught, Taiwan was caught, and many Asian countries were caught. That is where Malaysia followed the Indian model. They said we had convertibility till yesterday, we are not going to have convertibility. Like India, we will have non-convertibility. Very major decision with Mahathir took. But IMF and World Bank recommended to Korea that you must open the financial sector for investment from abroad. That is the only way to save your economy. And we are giving you so much loan for that purpose. They opened the financial sector for foreign investment. Out of 5 large banks of Korea, in the next 1 year, 4 of them went under the control of foreigners. 60% of the market capitalization of Korean stock markets went into the hands of foreigners. 75% of the banking assets went into the hands of foreigners. India was saved because we were always slow in taking decisions. In spite of the fact there is no informed public opinion in India, there is no economic discourse, critical economic discourse worth the name. In spite of the fact the economic publications of India are just carbon copies of the publications in America, we were saved because we are a slow nation. Had we proceeded in the way in which the Reserve Bank of India at that time, influenced by the United Front government in 1996-97, if they had brought about capital account convertibility, we would have been finished. But in 1997 and 2001, as this powerful message came from Asia, the World Bank and IMF themselves said, we cannot recommend convertibility to any country unless certain fundamental conditions are met. That is why India, Indian financial system, Indian banks, Indian rupee, Indian life model, Indian economy was saved. Because the West was rocked by the very economic theory which they thought would produce prosperity for all, was producing such unexpected chaos and crisis. It had set the development of Korea, Taiwan, Malaysia, Indonesia back by 15 years. India learned from it. So we are a bank-run economy. Why we are a bank-run economy? Statistics proves it very clearly. You know, from 1991 we began promoting stock market in a big way. And stock market was 1000 BSE index in 1991. It became 20,000 in 2011. 20 times increase. But the Indian people were not going to the stock market. They were going only to bank. Why? Why when the stock market is rising 25 times, your people do not go to stock market? Economics should teach It has now gone up to 72%. That means the more prosperity India produced, the more the people depended on the banking system. Is there any other evidence needed than this to say that India is only a bank-driven model? It is not articulated by banks, it is not articulated by the captains of the bank or the Reserve Bank or your media. Just this figure. The bank deposit to GDP ratio went up from 34% to 72%. And you know what is the investment in stock market last year? Just 1% of Indian savings. Just 1%. I will give you the stunning figures. You know, you look at the GDP of India. Unless you understand it, you can't position where the banking, where the public sector is, where the society is, where the government is, and what is the link between all the three. The society, the government, the character of the economy. These have an interrelationship. This is specific to each country. There is no one country which can produce a model for all countries. All these thoughts have been given up in 2005. America said the Western model will produce a world model. And this day, based on the sociological movement about which what I am going to read will shock you. This is called the anthropology of modernity. Many people relate modernity to language, they relate modernity to dress. It has nothing to do with modernity means sexual freedom. That is the definition of modernity. It has not come up. And this was supported by economic theory, it is supported by government, it is supported by the media, everybody for their own benefit. This has been captured by an American anthropologist called Marshall Shalins, who disagreed with the economic theory, which flowed out of the social composition which America was trying to bring about. Marshall Shalins, a prominent American anthropologist, captured the essence of the theory of anthropological modernity thus. Anthropological modernity is nothing but everybody saying, I will live for myself. Nothing else matters to me in life. No brother, no sister, no father, no mother, no grandfather, no neighbor, nothing. In America, if you go, if the neighbor's children comes and plays in your compound, you will ask the child to go away. You know why? If the neighbor's children falls down, gets injured in your compound, the neighbor will send you a legal notice for $25,000. That is the relationship between neighbors. If you don't whitewash your building, the neighbor will send you legal notice. Your building is looking ugly because of the value of my building is going down. Better whitewash your building, otherwise I will tell the government, they will come and whitewash your building and send the bill to you. If you don't mow your garden, legal notice will come from the neighbor. There is no relationship. Everything is legal, everything is contract. You cannot imagine what kind of quote-unquote society it is. That was a deliberately contrived model. It didn't come just like that. It was produced. It was produced by social thinking, economic thinking, political thinking, of which America became the laboratory. And it is being exported all over the world. And that became not the social model, it was served as the economic model. If you want to develop gentlemen, you have to cease to be who you are and become like us. Then only you can develop. Our media, our thinkers, our politicians, our bureaucrats, everybody became hawking and marketing these thoughts. Marshall Shalins, a prominent American anthropologist, captured the essence of the theory of the anthropological modernity thus. A late classic of the genre was Walter Rostow's Stages of Economic Growth, with its unilinear sequence of 5 development stages from the traditional society to the age of mass consumption. The ultimate aim of modernity is you must consume and eat, that's all. Enjoy life. with the added advantage of turning right twice over. Common to many theories of development is the cheerful sense of cultural tragedy, necessary disintegration of traditional societies that function in Rostow's scheme as a precondition for economic takeoff. How many of you have studied in IIMs in India? Please keep it. IIMs in India teach this. You cannot reach the stage of economic takeoff unless you destroy the traditional societies. It is being taught in our IIMs even today. Don't think these are economic theories. These are theories which are meant to dismember your society, your family, your way of life. This is what is modern economics. We must understand. Out of which came the efficient market theory. This is a package. India has rejected this package so far because the people live a life which they have used to living in spite of all these modern influences. In India, the family constitutes the core, and if the banking system in India survives today, prospers today, progresses today, it is because of the families. In the 1990s, when we were saying that India cannot be developed by foreign investment because that kind of foreign investment no country can make to develop India. For example, at that time they said we need $400 billion for our infrastructure. There was no country which could invite, even all the countries put together $400 billion investment in 1990. It was difficult. Then they revised the figure to $1.2 trillion in 2001. In 2007, they revised the figures to $1.7 trillion. That India needs $1.7 trillion. No country could invest that kind of money. You know, at the time of all, it is the Goldman Sachs which came out with a paper, Global Economic Paper number 187, in October 2009. You can go and access this paper in Google. It says that India needs $1.7 trillion for its infrastructure, but India does not need $1 from outside because the Indian families save through banks and the banks will be able to fund the infrastructure through the intermediation of the government. Tell me, has any bank chairman mentioned it in the course of his annual address? Has any of your union leader enlightened you? Because we are cut off from facts. We are fighting ignorance. This is a global economic paper of the very country whose model we are trying to adopt. Your media is recommending, your economists are recommending, all political parties are recommending, and they are saying, gentlemen, you don't need our money, you generate money. The money that is generated in India is real money. The money that is being generated outside India is fake money. It is just printed. It is because the dollar is trusted. It is not saved money. It doesn't represent production of goods and services and the surplus. In India, the GDP is there. Out of the GDP today, we say 32% of the GDP. In 1991, our savings to GDP ratio was 22%. And the family savings was 90%. At that time, Manmohan Singh was the finance minister. They had invited one Dr. Jagdish Bhagwati from America. Unless you understand this debate, we can never understand what is bank in India. And particularly public sector bank has the biggest role in what I am going to tell you. Jagdish Bhagwati came and Dr. Manmohan Singh said, we are in a mess. Dr. Bhagwati was called the god of free trade. Alan Greenspan was called the god of money. He was called the god of free trade. Our economist. He was the one who structured and drafted the Calcutta Treaty, which later became the WTO. And he became a world famous man. He didn't get Nobel Prize, but his disciple Paul Krugman got the Nobel Prize and said, all my knowledge I got from Dr. Jagdish Bhagwat. He was that kind of a very tall opinion maker and economist. He came to India. And Dr. Manmohan Singh asked him, how are we going to develop? Please tell us. He said, yes, you can develop, but you have to do a few things. And he said, you have to open up the economy for foreign investment. This is any blind economist also will say. It is not that it is a well thought out theory. Nobody keeps their eyes and ears open to say this. It is just carbon copied from one economist to another. You open the Indian economy will grow. And we have opened Indian economy from 1991. It did not grow till 2003. That apart. He said that there is a big problem in your country. Unless you solve this problem, this country can never grow. What is the problem? You have a very high rate of savings. 22% is a very high rate. And the family savings are 19%. How can you allow the families to save 1/5 of their income? You must ensure that the family savings comes down to just 9 to 10%. And this 10% savings should be turned into consumption, purchase. Then that will lead to increased production. That will lead to increased employment. Afterwards, nobody can touch Indian economy on the growth path. This is theory, but I am going to give you practical suggestions. This is what Dr. Jagdish Bhagwat said. In 3 pages in the 72-page note which he gave to the government of India, which was on the website. Suddenly they removed it, I don't know why. In that 72 page, in 3 pages, he dealt with the Indian families and the role of Indian women. He said the Indian women are very stingy, they are not spending. You must educate them to spend and enjoy life. You must build huge malls, bring goods from outside, jewelry, cosmetics and everything. And they are very responsible, they are bothered about their husband, they are bothered about their children, they are bothered about their elders. And all this makes them to cut the budget, to stop spending. You must ensure that they start spending. Once you teach them how to spend money, nobody can stop the Indian economy. This was an advice given to the government of India in the year 1993. And the government began doing it. We cut down the tariff rate, we began cutting down the interest rate, introduced the credit card, and all. Media was very happy because they are getting advertisements. So songs were there, buy these goods, that goods, beautiful songs, and our women sang the songs but did not buy the goods. They could not be changed because women are more culturally rooted than men anywhere in the world. With the result, the family savings went up from 19% to 28% in 20 years, and national savings went up from 22% to 37%, and national investment went up from 24% to 40%. That is how India grew almost 10%. This has been proved. And this money came to the bank. Because the banks are trusted. It's very important. And that increases your responsibility. If somebody trusts me, I have to be 10 times more careful. Then if somebody doesn't trust me, I need not worry. If a friend trusts you, that you will help him in a crisis, you have to help him in a crisis. Trust means a very big responsibility. If the people trust the bank with their money increasingly, they have doubled. That means you have a very big responsibility. You look at the Indian economy. Of the total GDP, the government share is 23%, agriculture is 17%, corporate sector is 15%. The entire corporate sector, listed and unlisted, public and private, put together. And the share of the listed corporate is just 5%. And the share of the census corporate is 1%. This entire Gensex corporates, which titillates the world and India and our media and our financial journalists. Oh, the stock market has become 25,000, India is a superpower. This 30 Gensex companies add only 1% of India's GDP. It is the non-corporate sector which adds 45% of India's GDP. And I will come to you where the banking system is a big success and where it is a huge failure. You know, the listed Gensex companies, the BSE 500 companies contribute to 4 to 5% of India's GDP. Now I will tell you the figures. They have received $317 billion foreign investment. And the FIIs have brought in another $176 billion into the stock market. And so the total money this listed corporates or the corporate sector received was $477 billion, including $160 billion foreign borrowing. $477 billion was the total amount by way of equity, by way of FII investment, by way of borrowing. Over and above that, you bankers gave the corporate sector 20 lakh crores credit. So, about 48 lakh crores of money went into the corporate sector. The corporate sector share of GDP after taking these 48 lakh crores went up from 12% to 15% in 20 years. Just 3%. You know what is the share of the corporate sector in employment generation, public and private sector put together? In this 20-year period, public sector employment came down by 3.5 million. Private sector employment went up by 1.5 million. With all the IT revolution, with all the auto revolution, with all the financial sector reforms, private sector employment rose only by 1.5 million. Public sector employment came down by 3.5 million. It is very important for those who are promoting public sector, the cause of the public sector. No. The public sector from 1991 to 2011, its employment came down from 3.5 million. When I mentioned this to the government officials who sat to listen to me, they were shocked, shell-shocked. And I said, it is not a secret figure. Look at Annexure 56 and 57 of the economic survey which you have released that says these facts. 48 lakh crores. The entire banking system assisting the corporate sector. This is the result. Sorry, I think I made a mistake. It is 3.5 million for private sector improved the employment. Public sector employment came down by 1.5 million. The net addition to employment was 2.2 million. Just the figure got mixed up. 3.5 million was the improvement in the private sector employment. Public sector employment came down by 3.7 million was the increase in private sector employment. Public sector employment came down by 1.5 million. The net improvement to employment was just 2.2 million. You know who employed India? India was employed by 57.7 million non-farming enterprises. Other than the construction sector, these 57.7 million non-farming enterprises is a continuous process. They employed 115 million people. The construction sector is a huge employment sector which we are not reckoning because it is not a continuous employment unless it is an organized sector. You know what is the bank advances to this sector? Just 4% of the requirements. Just 4%. And their average capital employed, all these facts I am 2010, it was reached in 2011. Their average capital employed is 2 lakhs, which means these 57.7 million have a total capital employed of 11.4 crores, in which the bank share is just 4%. These people borrow 60%, 80%, 100%, 120%, and still their value addition is 6.3 lakh crores every year on a capital employed of 11.4 lakh crores. Their value addition is 6.38 lakh crores, almost 55-56%, even 60% is the value addition after paying all the usual rate of interest. This is what has sustained the Indian economy. At least some people in this government listened to me. When I told them, they were shocked. And then they introduced para 1 or 2 in this budget speech, that we need a separate financial architecture to fund these non-farming enterprises. This is going to be the growth engine of India. And the bank has the money. They don't have the money. You put in the money in corporate sector, they do not produce return. And they give you NPS. I told them 2.7 lakh crores is the NPS from 2004. We suffer from acute ignorance. This is where I have always been asking the bank officers, please enlighten yourself, amongst yourself, create huge amount of public opinion, which you people are capable of doing. You are articulate, you are involved in the financial sector. Only a little more, I always used to tell the bank officers, please constitute a monthly study group. Those who are interested, it is not all the 10,000 officers will be interested, maybe 100 will be interested. That is sufficient to inform the rest. My feeling is that we need to be free from this ignorance, and that is a fundamental aspect, that responsibility is cast on you. Because being in public sector means that it calls for some discipline. You know, when I was articulating the Swadeshi point, Dr. Ashok Mitra, who was the West Bengal finance minister, he wrote an article in the Seminar magazine, there my article also appeared. But the concluding part of his article was brilliant. He said, I have no objection to Swadeshi. Swadeshi economics will succeed, but it calls for some discipline. Then I wrote a letter to him. The same thing happened to socialism. Because socialism asked for some discipline, and socialists could not be produced to be socialism, but capitalists could be produced to be capitalism, and that is the reason for this chaos. It calls for discipline. And it is not that you can ask the people to be disciplined. Those who operate the monetary system, public sector banks, control almost 80% of the Indian financial system, monetary system. You need both honesty and integrity, as well as discipline. But unfortunately, you are remaining just a trade union movement. I want you to be an intellectual trade union movement. You must be able to generate ideas. See, this is the difference. This is what we are. This is the banking system. This is the society. This is the savings model. Then the way you will be respected. You will not be seen as merely people demanding. You will be seen as people offering suggestions, ideas, advice. You generate. This is my plea to all of you. That you must have, even if you is somebody, you can even put together a team of experts to study and inform you. But time has come. It has come long back. At least now, let us begin doing this work. Now, look at the public sector situation in India, which is not appreciated again because of ignorance, because of lack of education. You know, in 1996, the 95, I think, the post office people invited me to address, General Post Office Madurai, Mount Road, they invited me to address. And about 600, 700 staff had appeared in the meeting, and most of them were women. So when I told them, I said, you are perhaps the most efficient and the cheapest postal system in the world. And I must express my gratitude and my congratulations to you for maintaining a very important institution which connects the entire India. At that time, the postcard was 10 paisa. Today, it is 50 paisa. One person from Kashmir in the war front can write a letter to his mother and reach it in Kanyakumari, and it will be delivered. He can send money on it. The alarms will be read, and the postman will sit and take her comment, and she cannot write, he will write. It is not office. It is a huge relationship to a build. When I mentioned it, many women wiped out their tears. I said, why are you crying? Sir, nobody has said any good word about us till today. We have scant respect for public sector workers. We don't respect it. You look at the railway. You know, the Indian Railway transports the whole of Australia every day. They transport 2.3 crore people. Australian population is 2.28 crores. Imagine the whole of Australia being transported from one end to the other. And you only abuse these railway officials. You know, 2.3 crore people to be handled every day is no joke. Even the railway does not put up these figures in the railway station. This is what we do. They are not bothered. Nobody is interested in building a brand for their institutions. You can never command more respect than State Bank of India itself. An IOB official cannot command more respect than IOB itself. An Indian cannot command more respect outside India than India itself. We need brands. So, we have to work on the Japanese pattern. They will fight, but without losing respect. By giving respect. So, we need to reorient our trade union movement so that we uphold the institutional integrity and brand. This is very necessary. Look at what the railways have done. You know, to transport through railway goods costs 90% less than the road sector. 90%. 1/10 of the cost of road transport is the railway transport. That means railway should have had monopoly over goods transport. The freight share of railways in 1950 was 90% of the total freight traffic. Only 10% was being transported through roadways. Today it has come down to 31.6%. The share of railways has come down from 90% to 36%. And the share of roadways, which is costly, inefficient, and I will tell you the environmental cost. The freight cost of road transport is 0.2. Rail, diesel, 0.05. And electric 0.015 and railways 0.0607, postal shipping 0.030. Road transport is costliest in monetary terms, in environmental terms, in terms of accidents, but still it is emerging as a winner. You know why? Railway did not know how to brand itself. To the media, to the public, to the politicians, to the opinion makers. What Indian Railway is, you cannot build another institution like this. It can only evolve. But nobody knows. And now they are planning. In America, the share of railways and in China also is 50% of the freight traffic. We are now 36%. They are saying by 12th plan we will be 35-65, 13th plan 39-61, 14th plan 45-55. In 15th plan you will reach 50-50. You had a 90% share. You are struggling to go back to 50 after 25 years. Does anyone even know? Does the media know about this? These are all government appointed committees. Rakesh Mohan committee has come out with all these facts. It is there from January 2014. No newspaper has written, no railway official has spoken, no minister has taken note of it. We are not fighting any ideology. We are not fighting any foreigners. We are fighting our own ignorance. We just don't read. We sit before the television, that idiot box, and spend 4 hours, or you read some page 3 about some raids or some other news item in the newspapers, and take our coffee, take our life easy. No nation can be built with this attitude. We have a very special responsibility, those who are in the public sector. Private sector people can spend their time in whatever, they can while away their time, because their promoters know how to make money and distribute it to them. But here you are the promoter, you are the owner, you are the operator. A re-education of the public sector officials is needed at all levels, right down to the last man. You know, if Narendra Modi today can say, I will have 7.5 crore account open, it is only on the strength of the public sector. You know, till 30th September, 5.29 crore accounts have been opened. And almost 3.12 crores in rural areas. But no public sector officials has given credit to it. No bank chairman has stood up and said we have done it. No trade union leader has said we have done it. Media doesn't know about it. It is in some small corner. NDTV web edition has this detail. It has been put in a very small corner by Business Standard. Can you understand? One of the most important things which this government is doing, it is doable only because of you. Now you look at what is the share of your deposits. You know, out of the total deposits of about 73.8 lakh crores. 73.8 lakh crores is the total deposit with the banking system. 66 lakh crores is raised by the public sector banks. If the government is running today, they have borrowed 6 lakh crores this year. It is because of this mobilization. 2014, 11.5 lakh crores was the additional deposits raised. I want all this to be put in all the important branches, head offices, that this is what we have done, this is what we have done, this is what we have done. You must build the pride of your people, otherwise you will be only fighting for your salary. You need a paradigm shift. Then, you know, you have 65 crore account holders. I am not including this 5 crore. Maybe one man has 10 accounts also. You can inform these people. This is what we are doing. They have no respect for public sector bank because the government has no respect. You cannot command more respect than the government because the government owns you. So you have to give up your respect irrespective of the government. Whether there is a good finance minister, bad prime minister, you should not bother. You build the brand of your bank. This is what we are. All of us are capable. is what we have done as a banking system, this is what we have done as Indian Overseas Bank or State Bank of India. These informations can be exchanged in no time through the computer today. It requires some vision, it requires some action, it requires some work, it requires some study, it requires passion. Whom I appeal to you? Because I feel you are functioning in the interest of the country. I don't expect ICICI to function in the interest of the country. They are not even an Indian bank. SBioacc Bank is not an Indian bank. Reserve Bank has declared. They are foreign banks. ICICI invested $250 million in the subprime securities in America. No nationalized bank will do it. You know why? Still there is a responsible decision making in nationalized banks, even today. In spite of all the political interference, in spite of all the lobbying, still there are checks and balances. There is law, there are rules, there are important and good people in the system. It's a social capital. Private banks have raised a deposit of 5 lakh crores. These new private banks. These new private banks is American banks in India. You must understand it. They have nothing to do with India. Their systems, their morals, their norms, their behavior, everything is American. They have raised 5 lakh crores and they have lent 11 lakh crores. Should we and someone not ask, how are they lending so much money without raising deposits? Interbank borrowing. They are borrowing from you. Where is the money coming from? The world private sector banks have raised 1.5 lakh crores and invested 3 lakh crores, competing with these people. And see the responsibility. The officer-staff ratio in public sector bank is 37%. Officers are 37 as compared to the staff. In private sector banks it is 85%. Only 15% are other staff. In foreign banks 93%. You know with whom you are competing? We must know this. They will say you are inefficient, you are doing this. Well, we are dealing with human beings, we are not dealing with system. Ours is a relation-based banking system. You must brand the Indian banking system as relation-based. It is not just contractual. Contract serves as a supplement to relationship. Because of that, you have a high manpower. You have huge rural population to handle. But you don't speak. You don't tell all this. That is why we can have 5.3 crore accounts in just 1 month. In 1 month. And what is the contribution of the public sector bank and what is the contribution of your bank? It must appear every week because the statistics is available. That is why we have a high employment implicit in our relation-based operation. This will be a justification. Not only it will be a justification. It will be a need. Not only it will be a need. It is only because of this achievement is possible. But nobody is going to speak for you if you are not going to speak for yourself. Take the postal network. 1.55 lakh post offices and 1.4 lakh in rural areas. You cannot establish them. They have local routes. The total post they carry is 637 crores love letters at the cheapest possible price. They don't even mention it. The minister doesn't mention to the government, to the parliament, that we are carrying 637 637 crore letters. You should say this, the parliament should know, the media should know, the people should know. And this is only rural people who use it, otherwise they will have no communication. They can't pay the courier rate, the courier is not there. And you know what is the postal service? They have taken from 17.5 crore people. 17.5 crore people they have reached these post offices. And they have taken 5.5 lakh crores of different kinds of savings instruments. 5.5 lakh crores. Have you found this in the general post office in Chennai? But this is what we are doing. No. Then how will they respect public sector? That you are doing this kind of work, we are in touch with 18.5 crore people. The educated people, the English educated Indian who always looks to America for inspiration, he will look to the post office for inspiration. If he sees that 17.5 crore people are financially related to the post office. We have intellectual lethargy. This is for your introspection. All of us have to become nation builders. You can never build the nation unless you build knowledge. Nation is not built on rumors or slogans. It is built on hard knowledge. It is built on honesty. It is built on conviction. It is built on hard work. It is built on a purposeful movement. You look at the postal rates and the courier rates. Post got 50 paisa. Even the beggar demands more money. If you give him 50 paisa, he will return it to you. Letter is 2.5. Up to 500 grams, a parcel is 30 rupees to 70 rupees, depending upon the distance. And the courier, first 500 grams, this is up to 500 grams, 30 to 70 rupees. Courier, first 500 grams, 80 to 85. In the case of postal, the additional 500 grams is 8 to 20 rupees. And courier, 60 to 85 rupees. The post office must put up this. This is our rate, this is the courier rate. The railway should put up, this is the rate per kilometer we charge and this is what the bus systems charge. Then they will know. My feeling is public sector is not communicating. Its importance, its achievements, its capacity, its potential. It doesn't communicate. You think the people must understand on their own. The people will understand only what they are told by the media, by intellectuals, by economists, English educated people, the politicians. Most of whom are ignorant. I have more favorable view of politicians than the English educated people of India. The politicians still relate to the people. The IAS officers do not. The judges do not. You have to take appointment to meet them. You can land up in any politician's house and meet him because he cannot say no to you. But they are ignorant. No one educates them. So now, we understand the importance of banking system. We understand that the Indian economy is being run by the non-corporate sector, which contributes 45% of the GDP, to which only 4% of their money goes from the banking system. It's a huge imbalance. You are funding those who do not produce employment. And those who are producing employment are delaying funds. How can the economy grow? A change of mindset, a change of paradigm is needed, in which you have to play a very important role. Your bank chairman may be subject to political influence. You are not. You have to work with important people in the system. There are many educated people who want to help you. Professor Vaidyanathan has been working for the last 20 years on this. I don't think any I can go on and on. I will give you some 3-4 pieces of suggestions. You require research and studies about the society, about the banks, and about the world financial system. If any of you is interested, in 6 months you can acquire the skill, or you can get the involvement of people. It doesn't require much money. A small money will get you enough talent to know about this, to inform yourself. And those who of you are keen, I can help if you need to get educated, if you really are interested. Forget your television for 1 year, your knowledge base will go up by 20%. Then the education system. You go to the IIM, from where you are drawing people. You go to the Chartered Accountant Institute, from where you are going. There is nothing on the Indian banking system. They are told about Walter Roscoe, they are told about how America is growing, how Milton Friedman has been discarded by the US Federal Reserve System, how money can be generated out of thin air, you must make the people spend. But these are the serious coaching that is going on in IIM, your economic faculties, and that's where, from where you are getting your offices. They know nothing about this. They feel, I am caught in the bank, what can I do? I could not go to a merchant banker. That is why he comes to you. It is no more a preferred employer because they don't know about this. They are told about an imaginary situation and they are in love with somebody whom they have not met. But the reality they are not aware. We must ask for a change in the education system. There has to be a proper understanding about the Indian banking system. Through the educational institutions, you must demand the inclusion of a paper with 100 marks in degree colleges, in all universities. You say from where you are going to recruit, they know nothing about the Indian economy, about the Indian banking system, the difference between Indian banking system and others, till 2008. Accepting for the purpose of letting our investment deposits the money from the public, which is the definition of bank in India, was not the definition of bank in America. They said it is not the job of the bank to mobilize deposits. The bank will only intermediate between the shadow banking system and the people who want money. They became investment bankers. And after 2008, they are trying to become commercial bankers. They want to establish a relationship with people who save. But you are doing it already. That the Western banking system is coming round to accept the Indian banking system's model. The Indian banks do not know. Education is very important. And the re-education of the public sector undertakings everywhere, and particularly the banking system. Why I always talk to the bankers is that they are the core of the Indian economy. You can direct or misdirect the economy. You can grow or bring it down. The national savings is in your hands. Stock market gets only foreign savings. It doesn't get Indian savings. And increasingly the Indians are trusting you with money. So you must know, you must have the skill, you must have the competence, you must have the honesty. You must have the purpose. You must have the commitment. All of this is generated by some 20, 30, 40 people in each place taking interest. You can change the discourse. And public education. Unless you are educated, you cannot educate the public, you cannot educate the media. The media wants information. And wrong people give information, obviously wrong information. The right people have no information to give. So the truth doesn't come out. And finally, we do need some discipline. All of you must take oath. In the next 5 years, we will change the brand of Indian banking. You must take a vote. Then you will change. you will change the ecosystem. You will change the discourse. Then you will change the atmosphere outside. It is important for the country because you are a vast army of intelligent people who deal with money, which is the most important instrument for economic development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Swami. I think we can give a standing ovation for a very educated. Thank you very much, sir. They have been very thought-provoking, educated, and informative. And I also thank each one of you for your attention. He has told us that if people are not attentive, I understand the mood of the crowd and I will stop. And he has been speaking for 1 hour, 25 minutes, and you had also been very, very attentive. Sir, from our side, after this reform process started in 1991, we have taken some efforts. We have gone on strike in the banking sector 14 times, not for wage rise but opposing the so-called financial sector reforms. We have also brought out some small publications. We had also constituted an independent banking commission headed by Shri S.P. Shukla, who retired as Foreign Secretary of this country, and they brought out a beautiful report which gave an alternative banking policy. But our success has been limited, but as you have said, we have to work harder. We have to use our intellectual capability, and our friend Ashok Ram is here, who will be speaking to us tomorrow. He used to, I remember him speaking in Nalanda in one of the conferences. If you have to break the roof, it's not sufficient just you throw up a book and think that it will break. So our efforts have not been adequate. We will definitely take more of that effort, and I am very happy that you are willing to even support our studies. We will constitute a support group which will do the studies and come out with publications and work hard to see that the public sector is understood by the politicians, by the bureaucrats and the mass of the country. Sir, can you take one or two questions from you? Anybody has any questions to ask? Few minutes, one or two. Yes, you can come forward. Can somebody give a mic? You come to this stage. Give it a go.
Is there any alternative economic policy to be followed?
You will have to go behind the giant. Yes.
Is there any alternative?
You are ahead of the speaker. You have to go behind the speaker.
Sir, is there any alternative source for improving our economy to the old model, our beloved model?
Actually, what I have been trying to communicate is that the model which is functioning which is not recognized is the correct model. For example, we are a family-based society. The family takes care of elders, infirm people, unemployed people. It's a very important economic asset. And that is why there is savings. This is based on traditional economic wisdom. The modern economic theory is rejected. If we know this much, then we will know what is our economic model. In 2005, the World Bank came out with a declaration that there is no uniform economic model good for all countries. They were the ones saying our model is the universal model. They conceded in 2005 and the G20 nations declared in 2010 that each country has to develop its own model. Economic model is founded on the social model of a country, its cultural model, the relationship which people have with each other. So, the Western model is contractual model based on individualism. We are a relation-based society. I will just conclude my answering with a debate I had with Mr. Kumar Bhattacharya, who is a Warwick University professor, whose advice is sought by many countries in the world. He is an advisor to Malaysia, he is an advisor to South Africa, and he was an advisor to Margaret Thatcher on her privatization. So we had a discussion in Delhi. He said, Guru, you should not oppose privatization. I said, I don't oppose all kinds of privatization. The government need not run hotels. It need not run roadside tea shops, which Himachal Pradesh government is doing. They need not run taxi services, which Himachal Pradesh government is doing. I said, all this is not necessary. But how can you privatize railways? It's not possible. You can privatize segments of it, but you can't do it. When I was talking like this, I asked him a question. You want all these things privatized to why? It is based on an economic model which has evolved in the West. What is that economic model? What I told you. Families were nationalized and water supply was privatized, airport was privatized, railway was privatized, transport system was privatized. But the role of the father, mother, son, daughter have all will be nationalized. I said, apply it to India. In India, there are at least 60 crore Indians who are dependent on their near and dear. Maybe grandparents, parents, or children. And children for their education and support on elders. I was addressing the IIT students about Chennai management students about 4 months back. I asked them, about 500 students were there, I asked them to raise their hands as to how many of them are supported by their parents. The entire audience raised its hands. I said, if I ask this question in Stanford University to Americans, out of 500 Americans, only 2 or 3 will raise their hands because no parent supports the children's higher education. There is no relationship. Economic model is born out of relationship. It is true, we have not produced an Indian economist who will articulate this, but this is the reality. It doesn't require articulation. It is something which has to be absorbed and preserved. If all Indians who are earning and who are supporting non-earning members decide to disown them, the government of India will run away. They can't even give 2 square meals to people with all their revenues who will not be supported. So there is an economic model which is already functioning. In fact, I was studying the Indian medical system, healthcare. 65% of India's medical care is even today from our traditional sources. Only 35% is through modern medicine. Which is the alternative? The alternative is this 35% or the 65% care which is being provided by traditional medical care. Sometimes we don't understand what is the alternative. What is actually the alternative discourse and a failing discourse. So once you get into all this, we will know what the facts are. When we know what the facts are, we will know how the perception and reality are different.
Sir, I have two questions. One, the public sector bank in this country, is it necessary that we should follow this Basel III norms? Second question is, we are undervaluing our assets. For example, in State Bank of India, we have at least 5-6 buildings, huge buildings in the city, which after depreciation it is just shown as 1 rupee, including Madras main branch, Anna Salai building, our head office, all this. Can we not go for evaluation to show that we are performing better?
Sir, the first thing I am in agreement with you. Basel norms will not suit a country like India. Because Basel norms suit only corporate banking. If you deal only with the corporate sector and financial sector, like in the, particularly in US, Basel norms are even necessary. But once you are taking, Basel norms are based on the financial market theory. You must permit as many insolvencies as possible, otherwise your financial system is not efficient. In America, they permit an average of 2 million insolvencies every year. They fault the Japanese because Japanese banks are not permitting insolvencies. It is like our banking system. We try to save the borrower as much as possible, because if he declares insolvency, we have to write him off. And he will also be written off, and his debt will also be written off. So we try to save him, we try to restructure. Many people are saying this restructuring is wrong. Political restructuring is wrong. Economic restructuring is a must. This prevails in all the Asian societies. We are not American society. We are part of the Asian society. Once you take collaterals, once you take guarantees, once you bind the borrower head and foot, Basel norms are not applicable. Basel norms are applicable when the borrower says, I can't give you money and you can't do anything about it. This is where Basel norms apply. Can we ever have a banking of that kind? When 72% of the national wealth is deposited in bank's hands, can the bank take the position of the borrower and says he cannot give the money? And he says, okay, bye-bye. It's not possible. So Basel norms are inapplicable to the relation-based Indian banking system. It applies only to the system and contract-based Western banking system. This is a philosophical difference. There is no connect between the two. But nobody articulates it this way. So far as the evaluation of the bank assets are concerned, this is precisely what the Western countries want to do. To give an artificial sense of prosperity. Before the 2008 crisis, all the American house property values had gone up by 100%. Anyone who bought a house for $2 million, he found $200,000. He found this is asset value, house value had appreciated to $500,000. And so they began borrowing money on the, what they call as home equity. That is what landed America in a crisis. They borrowed $3.2 trillion against appreciation in the house value. But only one question they did not ask themselves. Who will buy all these houses if the houses is brought up for sale? The State Bank of India properties, if they are valued all over the country, and let us assume it produces a surplus of 200,000 crores, where is the buyer? The same thing LIC can do. It has far more properties. Assets inflation is a disaster. It is better assets are kept and say this is the kind of assets we have, but we have not brought it into the balance sheet. That I agree. That we have in the current market conditions, our undisclosed value in the balance sheet is 100,000 crores. That will give confidence to the system, to the employees, to the public, the depositors, but don't bring it into the balance sheet. This is the matter. Thank you all.
Sir, one side the government is talking about the small payment systems like the smaller units, and other side is talking of the merger and the amalgamation of the banks. Then what is the logic behind it?
See, this merger and amalgamation producing 4 or 5 large banks in India out of the 60 or 70 banks we have was very much a matter of conviction in 2004-05. So, at the time the finance ministry even said that we should by law bring about all this M&A. But the too big to fail problem in the West taught us that it is better to have many banks than 4 or 5 large banks. The theory holds good even today. But it may be that some banks need to be merged. We don't know. So it is not based on the principle that there should be only 4 or 5 banks. But some merger and amalgamation may do good. We have to decide on case-to-case basis. But there is nothing like merger and amalgamation are good. That's also not correct. That in all cases merger and amalgamation are wrong. That is also not correct. It has to be based on case-to-case appreciation. Indian economy is rainbow in character. Indian financial system is rainbow in character. The banks will be there, non-banks will be there, cooperatives will be there, the money lenders will be there. You cannot exclude any. Even the great financial inclusion you are talking about is only producing minimal effect. It can't work in Jharkhand, it can't work in distant Assam. It cannot work in deeper Madhya Pradesh. It cannot work in tribal areas. So we must understand why the postal system is able to accumulate at 4% interest 5.5 lakh crores. It is because they only relate to the people. That financial system works not in America, not in Europe. It works in Japan, it works in India. Because it is culturally compatible. So, everything will be needed because we have a very diverse kind of situation to handle. We have the fastest communication, we have the slowest communication. We have the fastest moving roads, we have no roads at all. We have electricity in surplus somewhere, we have no electricity somewhere. People have not heard of electricity somewhere. We need a financial model which will suit everybody, in which this M&A we figure some banks in Assam or some banks in Kashmir may need to be merged. We don't know. So we have to go on case-to-case basis. We should not take an ideological position, it is right or wrong, though I am of the view only large banks operating in India will be a disaster. We need variety of banks. We need banks which have local relations, because I have studied Karur. In Karur, when I was studying Karur in 1999-2000, it had a population of about 4 lakhs. I used to wonder, how did that small community produce 2 big banks? That is the culture of the place. Otherwise, how can such a small place produce 2 large banks? And it has a particular character. It cannot become some other. Take for some Tamil Nadu Mercantile Bank, with which I had some association. I actually restored the bank back to the community. Fought with people who are my friends who bought the bank, told them to return it, compelled them to return it, played a role. Because I believe that the community's culture is what is sustaining that bank. You know, it is the most profitable bank in the world. Its capital is 28 lakh rupees. And it has reserves of 600 crores. And its profit is over 100 crores. And its share value is 60,000. A 100 rupee share is 60,000 rupees. No bank in the world is as profitable, as wealthy. That is the culture of the bank. India can only produce these wonders. But the economists, the policy makers, the media, the intellectual Indian is not aware of these things. Thank you.
Comrades, we will be bringing out the booklet on the entire speech from the IVOC State Committee so that more people can get benefited and we can have more of debates. Now I request Comrade Manimaran, General Secretary of Cantonment Officers Association, Senior Vice President of AIBOC and the General Secretary of All India Nationalized Bank Officers Federation to give his vote of thanks.
The most respected chief guest today, who has mesmerized the entire crowd by his thought-provoking speech. Leaders from the dais, including leaders from our other public sector enterprises, and other members gathered in front of me, Mr. Arnab Rao, and our retired leaders like Mr. Iswaran, Chandru, Vasudevan, and friends. Indeed, it is the third occasion I was really fortunate to hear our chief guest speech. Once at Valasaravakkam long years back, and once at our Ethnology Stadium. This is the third occasion. One thing I noticed is, he is the only economist I have seen consistently and continuously advocating and supporting the public sector undertaking movements. Irrespective of the fact that which government is in the center. Friends, his speech has given a lot of inputs to us. After hearing from him, now I feel that we the Indians are designed for adopting public sector enterprises. And he has very intelligently connected our family, culture and values with the Indian economy. Perhaps after hearing from him, I conclude that we need not follow any new economic theory. Just by follow our family cultures, perhaps our Indian economy can be sustained in a better way. And he rightfully told that our Indian economy was opened up in 1991 with a thought that our Indian economy is going to improve. During that time, we the public sector banks particularly, not for which reasons, as our President has told that, for opposing the government's move of privatizing the banks, we came to this stage many times. And we can proudly claim that we were responsible for the government not to introduce it. Of course, sir. And we can definitely, with pride, claim that we, the public sector, undertaking the trade unions who are assembled here, we were responsible for not allowing the government to privatize the banking sector. Of course, the government indirectly introduced the private banks, perhaps thinking that this nationalized banking sector will come to a natural death. But that also we did not allow it, sir. Even after the introduction of ICICI Bank, IDBI Bank, all those banks today in the sea, still we the public sector banks are holding more than 70% of the market share, and which we can proudly claim. So of course, we got a good message from you. Perhaps so far the trade union in the public sector banks as a public sector enterprises, we have been concentrating on the emotional values of our members. Today we got a message, we the trade unions have to concentrate on the intellectual value of the members also. Generally the need for today, this paradigm shift can be brought into the industry. And we also will be perhaps involving in the creating a brand image for ourselves. So your advice is well taken, sir. And at least from today, we will think of educating our members in a more intellectual way, and we will create a niche for the public sector enterprises in the country in the days to come. Perhaps you must appreciate that it is a first step, perhaps. And we organized such a seminar, and we invited persons like you to inaugurate this seminar. And from today, it will be a march on for the entire trade unions of the public sector enterprises to see that there is a big paradigm shift. And intellectually, we will fight against anybody who is trying to question the presence of the public sector undertaking. We will ensure this country will appreciate and sustain this public sector undertaking in the days to come, sir. And our heartfelt thanks to you, sir, on behalf of the entire public sector employees who assembled here and who are watching you also online. My friends, and I also thank the other fraternal organization leaders, the leaders who assembled here. Of course, a special thank goes to Mr. Franco and our Vijay Sharan, who has given such an opportunity for us to hear the speech from our eminent economists. And one more thing, this is the first time perhaps an economist like Mr. Gurumurthy has openly come out against the Basel III norms as well as against the merger of the banks also. And it is perhaps duty to enlarge this thought process and let us spread all over the country that the march starts from this place today. Thank you very much.
Please stand up for national anthem. We will sing together.
ensure that your friends also attend tomorrow. Please carry the message that they should attend. I also request those who are seeing in web, kindly come and directly participate if you are in Madras. Thank you. Tomorrow's menu is SBioacc School at College Auditorium, Junior College Auditorium at Anna Nagar West.